in the books with overreaction, surprises, and jitters out of the way. And week 2 is now trying to see where we settle in with the 2023 NFL season. It's Zach Kyleman here hosting at least the first quarter and bringing in the other guys here of Kelcey and DJ for this episode for week 2's edition of 4th and 4. Jim was not going to be with us here this week. Unfortunately, he is dealing with other things, including a new place he is moving into and needs to get some internet things sorted out. So we'll give him a pass this week, gentlemen. But how are you guys doing? Sights, sounds, and kind of eyebrows raised, or I'd say a little grumpiness taken out of the way. We're into week 2. How are we feeling?
I'm excited that we're going back into it. I'm excited to get back into it as well, too. What's crazy to think about is there's always been overreaction Monday, which we'll get into as well. It's tenfold now, considering we still have a full 16 games left to go. 2 years ago, that was literally the full season because of the extra game. So it's like we literally, all right, you could almost treat week 1 like a preseason game at this point as well, too. So that's why I'm very curious to see what we all have for overreactions and how what we say today is completely thrown out the window in a month.
Just about.
If you saw our wrap-up tweet from Sunday night of last week, it's kickers, good luck with keeping your job right now. If everybody's fumbling the ball or throwing picks, it doesn't matter who you are. You could be, one of the best quarterbacks in the young game, and you could be one of the oldest quarterbacks in the game, and you're still going to throw a pick, it looks like. Don't even start me with the fumbles, the penalties, the injuries. It was just – you know what? I'm actually kind of scared to see what week 2 brings because week 1 was wild. I mean, it was just absolutely just – it's like every animal broke out of the zoo at one point in time, and we're just watching the aftermath of this because there was – kickers that don't miss kicks that are missing everything. There's a rookie kicker hitting everything on the other hand. Then you have,
Yeah.
It was wild. It was absolutely wild top to bottom. There was a tie. There was almost 2 ties. Like, it was bad. It was bad all around.
I really was, for some reason, maybe the chaotic nature of me was pulling for that second tie out there because the way that Cincy Steelers game was going, I'm like, just get out of there, just get the tie. There's no way they're gonna get this. And then Mitch, per usual, has that one decent throw that ends up changing it. That you're like, you start thinking because it's crazy for me. Where it's, well, maybe he is good, maybe he's got something to him, and then he goes back to his normal self. I digress. DJ brought up something I thought is hilariously tying in. Yeah, kickers might be worried about their jobs. Ricardo Blankenship doesn't have a job anymore after what happened last week in a 20-20 tie out in Houston. Surprised it was a tie, by the way, after that fourth quarter. But hey, you take what you can, and week 2 is among us. It's a new day. It's early season still. Nonetheless, I do want to get specific overreactions because, again, it's post week 1. We're going into week 2. People's minds are running at 100 miles an hour. I mean, dude, I'm sitting here listening to Bears fans talk about how the Bears are now up on top after beating the 49ers because it was a massive upset. And you know what? I didn't think so, and I said so. Nonetheless, I guess that's my only overreaction is, hey, Bears fans, calm the hell down, okay? We need to get through it against Green Bay, Rodgers owns us still. It's that simple. DJ, Kelcey, here's the deal. Give me some overreactions, guys. What kind of sticks out? You're like, you know what? I'm going to gun for this as a season storyline.
DJ, I'll let you go first.
Where to start with this one, considering literally every single game you will find something as well, too. So that's which one do we want to go with? That's a good question. I think I'm going to go with let's see, which one do we want to go with? We're going to go with the Colts and the Houston one because that's the one you mentioned as well, too. The overreaction would be the Colts are toast. The receivers are terrible. They're absolute trash. They have no offense. It was terrible. With Houston, it could be, oh, my God, they're legit. Look out. Here they come. Lovie Smith's a genius. I think it was a preseason game just kind of ramped up to 11 as well, too. You mentioned that fourth quarter, the Colts put up like 300 yards and 17 points. And that was with Blankenship kicking the ball out of bounds twice and missing a field goal just beyond a point after attempt too. So, and then for Houston, honestly, if it wasn't for like fumbles and miscues, and we all know Matt Ryan throughout his career, one thing he hasn't really been is a fumbling issue. It's not like Carson Wentz who has a history of it. Matt Ryan dropped like 3 snaps, him and Ryan Kelly, where one was going left, one was going right. It was kind of goofy. So I think that whole game as a whole is an overreaction as well too. And I'm going to lump that in with the entire AFC South, where somehow there was nobody that won a game, and those 2 tie teams were tied at the top. I think that's an overreaction. Say the first to 6 games wins because I think the Colts and I think even Tennessee have a good chance to make a run. And I think Houston and Jacksonville will be weirdly competitive like that with other teams because they were both just a handful of plays from winning too. So I think the overreaction is first team to 5 wins the South. But it's still probably going to be first one to 9 or 10. It's still not saying it's an AFC West, but I think let's reel it in a little bit. The Titans choked, Houston and the Colts choked, and Jacksonville all choked simultaneously. You can't choke every single week. Well, you can, but I don't think they will.
I mean, I can't get a read on the South after 1 week because it was all close games across the board. I mean, if anything, I think I was mostly impressed by Houston and Jacksonville just because, I think Houston there'd been a lot of hype during the offseason on they're not going to be that slouch team, and it's like, yeah, I was buying into it. And you know what? For three quarters, I was thinking they were going to walk away and surprise a lot of people, and then they tied. And like, okay, they're close-ish, but they still need some pieces to finish the deal. And then Jacksonville, hey, they showed plenty more fight. They were a few decent defensive stops away from probably taking this one out from Washington. So who knows? Way too early for the South. I completely agree with you. Kelcey, what's your overreaction for post-week 1 NFL?
I mean, I can't stop myself from saying this one, but I do want to add before I get to mine. There was another one that I heard that I just want to reference into DJ, what he was just saying with the AFC South. Derrick Henry being overrated or being out of this is his downfall. That was one I heard after this last first week. And by the way, I don't believe that one to begin with. But that's not my storyline. My storyline is the Bears are back, and Jimmy G. It's time for him to start in San Francisco. That's the storyline that I'm going with for the overreaction of the first week because it's not time to bench Trey Lance. And let's be honest, you can't. DJ, we talked about this in our show and on High Low this week. DJ made a great point. You can't really base a lot of what Trey Lance did in this game on what he's going to do in the future because it was a slip and slide out there. I mean, I don't know if anybody has scrolled through TikTok yet, but there's one of the best videos I've ever watched is a Niners fan in the stands with a giant popcorn barrel just trying to eat his popcorn as this water is pouring over into the bucket. It ends up knocking the bucket out of his hands. I mean, it was an absolute just flood of a field in Soldier Field. They had just replaced the grass as well, so that was a part of it. It didn't have a chance to settle. Mm-hmm. So it was everything that happened in that game, you can almost throw away. I just warn people if you're gonna give one guy credit, you got to give the other guy credit, and if you're gonna take credit away from one guy, you got to take credit away from the other guy. So if Justin Fields, if you're gonna allow a whole bunch of stuff on him, well, you have to allow a whole bunch of stuff on Trey Lance for not turning the ball over 40 times. He could easily turn the ball over 40 times in this game. And then the flip side, if you're going to give Justin Fields a lot of credit for the way he handled the game, or a lot of, he could have done better this, that, and the other, or you're going to give Trey Lance that, you're going to say he could have done better this, that, and the other. Well, Justin Fields could have done better doing all these same things too. So I think it's an aspect that, let's not get ahead of ourselves. These are both two young quarterbacks that are going to be forever attached to each other because they were in the same draft, because they were picked so close together. A lot of people think Justin Fields should have gone to the Niners. So it's they're going to be forever linked, but this is a situation where can we just scratch this one out from the calendar from ever happening? Forget it, blank it from our memories, because I don't think there was a whole lot to go off of, at least for the Niners' sake, to be making judgments like this. I think for the Bears, sure, you look good, you won, but I mean, a blind squirrel's right twice a day. Right?
Well, that's kind of how I think about this, too. The 49ers had 12 penalties for 99 yards, and a good chunk of those penalties were drive-continuing penalties in the second half, specifically either roughing the passer or, illegal contacts, holdings in the secondary on, third down. So I'm definitely – that's why my reaction is kind of along – it's like the opposite side of what you're talking, where it's like, guys, we got to calm down because, San Francisco just kind of gave away that game to me in so many regards.
Chill, people. This. I'm gonna use Aaron Rodgers, RELAX for both fan bases right now, because your seasons can easily go the opposite way going forward. I don't see Bears could just go 1-7, and Zach, I know you hate to hear that, but that's a possibility, And then the Niners, they could go 7-1 right after this. So you don't know with just because of a first game where these things are going to go. And then the Jimmy G commentary. I'm a big fan of Jimmy G, obviously starting by at some point in time, but let's calm down for now.
Right. Quick thing with overreactions or reactions, funny enough. We got to do this every show. Thursday Night Football, as we have talked, it's going to be a regular thing. We'll recap and discuss kind of some thoughts on that game. As we've seen, Thursday Night Football this year, they're going to get some big matchups. Amazon, they made sure they were going to get some quality ones. And week 2, start off with a bang. Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty back and forth. Ended up being a nail biter at the end, and kind of one specific play in general, 99-yard interception might have sealed the deal on what could have been a Chargers win. Guys, how do we analyze this one?
My first thought is I'm going to be quick at that play. They saw Gerald Everett trying to come off the field, and they decided to go tempo. Staley should have been like, nah, screw your tempo. Get him out of here. He can't walk. He's dying. Especially in the red zone where we've seen this year the Chargers like their tight ends and fullbacks in the red zone to the chagrin of all Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler fantasy owners. So at that point, you see him struggling. You have to take him off the field at that point or make a case to just like, hey, just do something else if you're like hand it off, throw to anybody else. My other thing is I kind of want to point out is Patrick Mahomes needs to get a little bit more credit here and there. Sure, he threw what should have probably been 3 picks, but we noticed it a lot too recently. Is a lot of guys almost get more credit for looking good against the Chiefs than Patrick Mahomes gets for when they beat those teams. That's like fair. Last year, Josh Allen was nearly perfect in that game, and everyone talks about that, but no one talks about Patrick Mahomes. He went 13 seconds, got you 40 yards, and won the game still. Like, there's that. This game, Justin Herbert outplayed him up until that pick 6. Patty didn't throw a pick 6. He nearly did a few times, but that nearly to compared to did. Like, There's a lot of things that I've nearly done in my life as well, too, and they still don't count for anything at this point. So, like, you can nearly go on a date with Selena Gomez. It does not matter at that point. No one cares about that. So my point is, I think Patty should get a little bit more credit for the things he does pull off as well, too. Still has those short stop plays. He still has he's not immune to flaws and criticism, but he gets more critique for winning than some of the guys do for losing as well, too. But that being said, I don't put the blame for Herbert's pick 6 on that. It's obviously his fault, but at the same time, it's not entirely his fault. Like, they could, not very good Chargers awareness overall as well, too. And that, by the way, that last touchdown he threw, only like 3 people in the world are making that throw, and 2 of them were on the field that night too. That was absolutely stupid. So even with a broken rib cage or whatever, the fractured ribs, he's still absolutely awesome. So it's not a shot at Herbert. It's more of a, hey guys, Patrick's still there. He's not just the fine, we'll give him number 1 by default. He still shows it on a regular basis.
And Herbert is day to day with that fractured rib cartilage issue. So something to monitor going into week 3. Kelcey, what do you see in that game, man? A lot of, like DJ showed, there's a lot of stuff that I think gets lost sometimes.
Yeah, you know what? I think we might even be seeing, up until that point with the Chargers, I think we might be seeing a Chargers team that has more weapons than we even thought. Because you look at Horvath, this is 2 weeks in a row he's had a receiving touchdown.
Yeah,
a fullback with 2 receiving touchdowns, taking away from Austin Eckler, taking away from Mike Williams, taking away from insert name here, and they're all deadly. And then on the flip side, I think the Chiefs have even more weapons than we thought. Like, losing Tyreek Hill might have been the best thing they could have ever done, because maybe Patrick Mahomes actually now needs to read a field, and he actually shows he can do so.
Diversify the portfolio is what I'm hearing right there.
Yeah, and then let's be honest. You look at his second highest targeted player. How many of you put Justin Watson on the board? 2 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown over the top of J.C. Jackson, by the way, which is a fantastic double move. He beat him on. But then I do want to give J.C. Jackson some credit. Dude's rolling out here on one ankle. I'm interested to see what he does when he gets fully healthy for this defense. I mean, honestly, when I see this, I'm thinking the AFC West is exactly what we were afraid it was going to be. It's going to be a knock 'em out, drag 'em out. Who can stay healthiest longest? Who can keep themselves from making that one killer mistake? And the big mistake here, obviously, being that pick 6. But I'd even say the broken rib cartilage for Justin going forward is going to be super important for the Chargers, how they deal with this. Because let's not forget, last time there was a rib injury to a quarterback that started for the Chargers. Well, Justin Herbert ended up starting 5 minutes before the game, after Tyrod got stabbed in the lung. So tough break there.
Thursday Night Football and the AFC West will continue to be probably an exciting work of fireworks. I mean, hey, Amazon, like we said, they put a lot of time. I think they'll put a lot of time and effort in pushing the NFL to give them good matchups and remove that stigma. Great start, I think, to trying to change things over. Before we get to the solo story, one quick one I think that made some fun waves, and it's actually nearby where you two are at. The Browns, they did a vote for the midfield logo. They want to change things up. Guess who's there this year? Brownie the Elf makes his appearance at the 50-yard line. It's actually pretty large and depicted logo, guys. Give me some quick thoughts. Brownie the Elf makes a return. He's going to be on the field all season for those home games.
I will say, for those who didn't know, Brownie the Elf has been part of the Browns for a long time. This wasn't just something they pulled out of a hat. It has been related to the Browns going way, way back as well, too. The thing I'm most interested in is Myles Garrett said if they win the Super Bowl, he will dress up as Brownie the Elf. So I'm curious to see that absolutely supersized elf in person, see what he looks like as well, too, because I don't think they have an elf costume that could fit his biceps. But I think it's cool. I mean, like, you have a logo, you're a dog pound, they have a lot of different things going on there. So I'm cool with it. I'm not too bent out of shape either way. But I think it's neat. It makes more sense than a helmet, I guess, if that makes sense. You might as well slap the NFL logo on there, like the Rob Lowe wearing the NFL hat meme that goes around. You might as well do that at this point.
Well, sure. It was either that or their secondary Bulldog logo. That's exactly what I'm looking at, you know?
Yeah, if that had been one of the choices for their four options they gave fans, that would have been the one I picked. But this is actually the one I picked for the voting, and this is what it looks like if you guys haven't seen it yet. So you can see Brownie the mascot actually looking at himself on the field, like, oh my gosh, I'm on the field. No, it's actually really cool. I actually am a big fan of the Brownie logo. I think it's one of the cooler alternate logos. I think it's safe to say, like, because it's not really their alternate logo, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's their alternate logo. It's a weird concept. It's like their third alternate, really. But really, basketball teams are the only ones that use those alternates, anyways. So it's kind of cool. I'm a big fan of it. I would I still like. I look at this and to your point, you mentioned the Bulldog logo. And how much they're spreading into fans overseas. Like, imagine a fan overseas. Like, wow, the Cleveland Browns. So you're named after a color. You have a leprechaun on the middle of your field, and you have fans in the stadium barking like dogs, and your name's the Dog Pound. What is happening in Cleveland? I think that's the fun part about this. It's just, like, as an Auburn fan, I can tell you it's the same thing for Auburn fans. Being named the Tigers with the War Eagle chant, blah blah blah. Yeah, I think this is gonna be a fun thing. It is definitely better than the bunny rabbit mistake that was the helmet logo on the bottom line last year. And if anybody doesn't remember, it was the bunny rabbit with the walker. So very fitting for the way the Browns performed last year. But you know what? It's better than that logo.
That's too funny. Hey, look, Cleveland fans are a different breed. Mostly, I think, a good one in terms of just how they, year over year, they endure a lot of stuff, but they still support their team. They'll take what comes with them. And I guess that's what you also get for having your team named after your owner. And then you just got to figure out what do you do with that after a while.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what do I know?
Figure something out.
Fun little quip. And as just kind of entering as we leave our quarter number one, we got the final story of this week, kind of the main headline I want to discuss here. Something that I was pretty intrigued by. And, I think the NFL in recent years, we've talked about, and I think others have talked about, and it's been brought to light how they kind of didn't do right by players in terms of concussion protocol, in terms of head injuries, in terms of trying to better protect the health of the players. Well, this offseason going into preseason, they introduced and kind of worked in bringing in guardian caps, which are these massive padded caps that go on to players' helmets. They started mandating them for a certain period during the preseason and during training camps. And reports are coming out that at least year over year, concussions are down 50%. Now, over a 3-year period, the average was about 23 concussions a year during that span. It was at roughly 11 that is for that same period this year. Sure, short amount of data, but the NFL says that they are surprised and it has surpassed the expectations of what it was set. Over 200 players actually still use the guardian caps past the mandated area that was needed during the offseason. So what does this all mean? We might have a little bit more technology that I'd say is definitely a plus in terms of promoting a healthy and safe way of playing the game of football, and something I think is going to be more prominent as we move forward. Because the NFL, if that is one thing, they've realized their mistakes in the past. I believe, paying out and enough and getting the blowback that it had as well, this is very much deserved. So really a good step in the right direction. Still much more work to be done. But if guardian caps are part of the future, it should stay part of that future, and it should definitely be brought back next year and for years beyond as a next step with players. And with that, we move on to quarter number 2. And as you can see, look at these. It does look ridiculous, but I'm telling you, if the data does stand up over the next several years, why move on from it going to training camp? I'm just saying, protect the players, keep your game's integrity there. Don't risk losing the game over mistakes you've made. Try and build, make it safe, keep the product that most Americans love too. I think there's a win-win in paths to do that.
And it'll be, hey, it's something that you guys can jump in on the conversation with. Again, this one's going to be posted on our Twitter page. So check it out, 4th and 4. If you haven't followed us yet, follow us. You'll see our retweets from our normal accounts. But, let Zach know. Guardian Cats, should they stay? Should they go? I'm a big proponent of them. I love them. They look like mushroom toppers, but you know what? They work. So that's the important thing.
Look at the data. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Look at the data. Well, also something we're going to be looking at more data and some more histories as well. Again, quarter number 2 is coming up, so DJ is going to be taking it away here as we get into DJ's bets, and of course other little tidbits that me, Kelcey, and even Jim are going to be throwing in. So, DJ, take it away for this one, my good man.
All right, thank you, Zach. It is always a pleasure. So now we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about bags, and we're going to look at some Brinks trucks. Last week, looking through it, we did pretty well overall. We won more than we lost last week as well, too, after I cranked through the numbers. Had some questionable ones through a very, very wacky week. So this year we're going to try and make up some of that cash, knowing we have a little bit in the back. So the first game we're going to talk about, we're looking at Miami versus Baltimore, one of the more premier matchups of this week amongst football fans. I'm going to go ahead and start first. I'm going to break out a fun betting scenario for this one. We're going with first place scoring touchdown, but we're going to do a double result with Baltimore first and Miami at plus 750 odds. That means if Baltimore's first scoring play is a touchdown, then afterwards Miami's is. That's plus 750 odds right there as well, too. And I think both of these teams starting off the game, that's when you're going to see them score pretty quickly out of the gate before the defenses kind of adjust and figure out what the other offense is doing as well, too. So that's what I'm looking at for Miami and Baltimore. We'll go ahead and toss this one over to Kelcey first. Kelcey, tell us what you're looking at betting-wise for the Miami Dolphins and the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, so for this one, I'm actually looking at Jalen Waddle specifically. A guy who is a bit, look, he's going to be a big weapon this season for sure. Even with Tyreek there, basically one of them is going to be single covered at all times. You're guaranteed of that. I think Jalen Waddle is going to be the game breaker in this one. I actually have him 2 touchdowns anytime, plus 900 odds on this one. So it is a stretch. It is going to be a tough one to get 2 touchdowns. Let's not kid ourselves. This Ravens defense is a strong one. But if the Dolphins perform like I expect they do, Jalen Waddle 2 touchdowns, 900 plus 900. Very nice addition to a parlay potentially.
100% as well too, and Kyle Fuller out for the season if I'm not mistaken after an injury as well too. So that secondary, the injury is starting to pile up yet again on them. They can't seem to catch a break back there. Before we get to Zach, I'm gonna do Jim's bet really quick. He had Miami at plus 158. He took the money line in that game as well too. So interesting there. He kept it simple. Zach, I'm gonna toss this over to you. What are you looking at for Miami versus Baltimore?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple. I feel like I'm going to start a little bit of a trend here for going into every week is looking at just like the random kicking bets. I don't know. I feel like there's just easy ways to jump in. For example, and I'm leaning on, and I think they're leaning on this on Caesar Sportsbook, that is, in terms of the potential for Miami's offense coming in, the expectations it was set. Jason Sanders for an over 2.5 extra point total at plus 146. I know that this is a tougher Ravens defense, but I do see that as a possibility. I think they can get 3 touchdowns out of this game, and I think that they have the weapons to do it. So I'm taking it, and I'm going to, I think it's just going to be my shtick. I'm going to just keep at least one of these 3 every week this season. I'm going to pick a kicking bet. It's going to happen. Keep the extra point one. Trust Jason Sanders this week. Maybe add him onto your parlay, or just do a single to test. I think that's the one I'll do. Maybe I will put my own money down this week on that specific one to get some cash. I'm taking it.
If I'm not
kicking
mistaken,
guy,
you got
Zach the
you
kicker.
Dan Carlson's right last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to say, yeah. Hey, kickers are people too, ladies and gentlemen. Zach is just reaffirming.
Don't ignore the kicking bets. You can get some easy money if you get the right ones.
Try and get a leg up on your competition there. I like where you're going with this one, Zach. That's a good one as well too. So next one, we're going to head over to 2 teams that are on the verge of mediocrity if they're not careful. We got the Raiders taking on the Cardinals in this one. And for this one, I'll go and start with my bet first. I'm going to go with plus 1,200 odds for Trey McBride to score a touchdown. I do think after last week, I think we're going to see a little bit more multiple tight end sets as well, too, because I think the Raiders, they aren't really the best at dealing with tight ends as we've seen as well, too. I think Zach Ertz is a problem. They'll keep an eye on him. This is a good chance for Trey McBride to maybe get loose up the seam at some random point. And for plus 1,200 odds, why not give it a try at that point as well, too? So, you know what? That's what I'm going with. We'll go and just circle right back around to Zach. Zach, what are you looking at for this game?
I loved what I saw out of A.J. Green last week in what was a blowout effort, of course, for the Cardinals. And in that regard, if you're going on Caesars, I'm taking the over 3.5 receptions total for plus 129 odds. Even if you are going to focus on maybe Green as your, say, potential threat in terms of the Raiders, there's other weapons you're going to have to lose sight of that I think he gets enough openings to get that 4 receptions to get you that over that you're looking for. So give me that. And plus, without DeAndre Hopkins still, he showed last week he kind of is their main guy right now, even with the weapons they're hoping excel. So yeah, 4 receptions, I think that's an easy one you can take.
100%, especially when Hollywood Brown mostly just runs straight for the most part in that offense as well, too. So it's not like there's a whole lot of versatility there. And real quickly, before we jump into Kelcey's, Jim has plus 150 for Hunter Renfrow to score a touchdown. So he's keeping it simple and trying to piggyback off of mine from last week. Hopefully it goes a little bit better for him. So Kelcey, what are you looking at for Raiders and Cardinals?
So you mentioned Hollywood Brown and how he likes to run straight. Well, I have him running past this entire defense for the Raiders because their corners are probably their weakest position. And you got to keep up with – you're going to be focused on A.J. Brown. You're going to be focused on Zach Ertz because that is a struggling type of thing. And you want to put focus on something you struggle against, and Zach Ertz is a perfect person to focus on. I have Marquise Brown, first touchdown, plus 1,100 odds in this one. It's going to be, again, this is like the Jalen Waddle one. It's kind of a stretch because especially when the Cardinals start to get compact into the red zone, Marquise Brown kind of ends up getting lost in the sauce. But he can be found occasionally. But, this is one of those ones I have him breaking it in from about 20 out for a touchdown. So that's where Marquise Brown kind of excels, is that 30 to 20 range going into the end zone, getting away from his defender.
All right, so going Hollywood Brown with a big play against a potentially questionable defense as well, too. We'll have to make sure they can contain that pass rush. I look forward to this game. Looking now to our third one here, we got the Eagles versus the Vikings, one of the other bigger matches we're going to be taking a look at this weekend. First of all, for Jim's, I'll start with his. He has plus 500 for Justin Jefferson to score the first touchdown, which, as we saw last week, that is always a very safe bet to pick Justin Jefferson when it comes to anything. For me, I'm going way out on a limb here. I'm go-go gadget, pseudo-woodoing, womping, willowing, whatever imaginary tree you want to use for this one. I'm going with the plus 2,800 odds for C.J. Ham, the fullback, to score the first touchdown as well, too. Little outlandish, wouldn't bet a lot on it, but if we've learned anything from the Chargers, once you get into the red zone, and we've seen it with the Vikings several times last year, just getting in that compact play action, the defense caves in, then the fullback or a tight end's just sitting there wide open and flat. C.J. Ham did this plenty of times the last few years. I think they're going to do it in this one, especially with that Eagles defense, how very aggressive and very, very compact. They're very downhill. So look for them to maybe, I know McConnell has seen that too, so maybe just squeak C.J. Ham out in the flats in a goal line situation for the first touchdown. So plus 2,800 odds. I'm going to be I could buy a whole lot of Ham for what I'd win if I put a little bit on that. So give me that one. Kelcey, we're going to go back to you on this one. What are you looking at for Eagles versus Vikings?
I thought I was going out on a limb here, but never mind. C.J. Ham was fire pick.
Don't bet a lot on it now. I'm saying you bet a little and get a lot.
He's like, wait a minute.
I love some fullback action in betting, so I think it's very interesting. But I'm gonna go back a little bit further from a fullback. I'm gonna go to a running back here. In Miles Sanders, I have him scoring 2 touchdowns. It's plus 625 for him to score 2 touchdowns in this game, and that'll be again. This one's a lot easier than the Jalen Waddle versus the Ravens defense. Miles Sanders, this offense is based off of running the ball first for the Eagles, so it's definitely an opportunity. Now, I am a little scared because there are so many pieces that can run the ball for Philadelphia that maybe if you get stuck closer compact to the red zone, maybe Miles Sanders loses one of these touchdowns because of a insert player here situation. But I do think that he has a great opportunity to score 2 touchdowns for sure. So plus 625 odds. If you pair that with DJ's C.J. Ham first touchdown, ladies and gentlemen, you might just forego the ham and get straight to the filet mignon at this point in time. Maybe even some Wagyu at that point in time if they both hit.
You hit both of those, you're bringing home the bacon nonetheless. So, Zach, what are we looking at for your bet for Eagles and the Vikings?
Well, man, you can build on the Wagyu then. I think we're all in on like Minnesota bets on this one. I'm actually adding on. You know what? If you're doing double up with C.J. Ham, sure, we'll say that's more the fringe bet. I think this is more certainty though, based on just what I saw at Philadelphia. I'm taking Minnesota scoring a touchdown first drive. I'm confident at plus 255 at that. Think about this. Detroit did what they wanted with DeAndre Swift, and then they did just enough in the passing game with Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark. But Minnesota is a next level above what the Detroit Lions are. That defense has so much more of a struggle ahead of them coming up. I think as long as you don't have, for example, a Kirk Cousins off game, or for some reason Dalvin Cook has an off game, which, I mean, as long as he's healthy, he's generally pretty consistent. I don't see a reason why you couldn't get a first drive TD out of this one. Philadelphia still needs some work in that secondary and still needs some work, honestly, rebuilding a bit of that defense, quite frankly. So take that. Why not? We have all these bets. You can bet a lot of stuff first drive on Minnesota. I think you'd be pretty confident because to me, this will be a high scoring game. If Detroit and Philadelphia put up the way they did, where they busted 70, I see no reason why this can't at least get past 40 or something, even with week 2 adjustments.
100%. I do think, and to piggyback off your point as well, too, I do think Minnesota on first drives throughout the season is going to be one of the better scoring teams on first drives. I don't know what numbers are, but I think by the end of the year, we'll look back at all their first drives and they're going to score touchdowns much more often than not as well, too.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for our 3 games we look at. Now we're going to head into my favorite part of this one, DJ's best bets, where I'm going to put together a nice little parlay and see if we can hit some big money on this one. Last week, we hit 2 out of the 3. The Hunter Renfrow first touchdown did not quite come through. So we're going to do something I feel confident in, one that's pretty likely, and then one that's a little more outlandish, but I think there is a possibility for. So we're going to start with one that I feel really comfortable with. We're looking at, I'm going to start in the middle and work our way around. Lamar Jackson, over 1.5 touchdown passes. I think Lamar Jackson, last time he played the Dolphins, it was a struggle. The time before that, he threw 6 touchdowns. So I think we're going to split the difference in between. Look for him to throw 2 touchdowns. Mark Andrews can get loose a couple of times. I think and J.K. Dobbins coming back, that's going to open up a lot of running threats. Mm-hmm. Colts and the Jaguars, the over-under at 40.5. I'm going to smash the under yet again because Colts are missing their 2 top receivers in Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce. Jaguars, we kind of saw last week, they are still working through some things. This game has Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines combining for 50 touches each and doing whatever they can to avoid getting those tackles roasted by Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. Look for this to be a 20-17 or just an ugly game. And we know every time the Colts go down to Jacksonville, it is not their best performance too. So that is something to keep an eye out for. If they can break the streak, or if the streak stands. Either way, I don't see it being a high-scoring game. And then the one that's a little outlandish, DJ Moore scoring 2 touchdowns at plus 1,200 odds. Last week, he had one big catch that they needed to help turn the game around. Kind of quiet otherwise, dealing with the Denzel Wards and the Greg Newsoms of the world as well, too. And Baker still in his first live game action with the Panthers as well. Giants showed a really good defense last week. I think Adoree Jackson's really nice. But I think this is where we start to pick it up. And I think DJ Moore, a true number 1 receiver who just got paid, I think he's going to find some loose spots in that Giants secondary as well, too, that the Titans not quite able to capitalize on because they lack some of the firepower. And at the same time, Tannehill's not as much of the downfield passing type as Baker sometimes likes to be as well, too. And so look for DJ Moore to break through for 2 touchdowns next week. And looking at the odds on this one, at plus 5,013 odds, you could bet $1 and win 51 of them as well, too. And that's not even including the individual bets on this one as well, too. So DJ's best bet parlay. See if this one can come to fruition. We missed the Hunter Renfrow first touchdown last week. Got 2 out of 3. See if we can go 3 for 3 this week. So I think we're going to have a whole lot of fun this week, putting our money where our mouth is. But that's going to do it for our second quarter talking bets. We're going to actually skip our halftime this time. Jim isn't here to join us in person. Doesn't mean he didn't record a little something for us to talk fantasy football. So we're going to go ahead and pass this one off to Jim for our third quarter fantasy starts and sits and Jim's BS. All right, take it away, Jim.
It is the third quarter time here in 4th and 4. And if you're watching this, it's a pre-recording. Unfortunately, I cannot get to the live stream because of internet situations. As you can see behind me, moving. Yes, so this has been pre-recorded for 4th and 4. So I want to get my segment out so the guys who are in the show right here, they can have a little extended break because I can take over. Welcome to Jim's BBS segment. Yes, it's pretty funny. It's boom, bust, or start. I'll give you a bust. I give you a start. The guys on the show will discuss who should start and who you should bench or who you should play, whatever. But I'll give you my the 2 guys of the group people will discuss, and I'll give you who I think should start and who you should think you bench in these games. So boom, bust start for week 2 of the National Football League is very intriguing. A lot of the guys who I mentioned last week, some of them had big games, and some of them didn't show out. Like my boom pick of the week was Travis Etienne, completely no-show. So don't listen to me on that, but this week's boom pick of the week will be someone you might want to get into. But if you don't have them, it's okay. Just hopefully you're not playing against them. So let's get going with the boom bust to start with the quarterbacks here in week 2. I love this matchup in the National Football League for week 2. You have the savvy vet, the greatest of all time, taking on a guy who can finally see in the second half in Jameis Winston. A very intriguing matchup between these 2 teams. And that's why I think these are a very interesting quarterback pair. Brady and Winston in drafts via ESPN, NFL.com, and Sleeper were projected 4th to 5th, even 7th round draft picks, some of the lowest positions that even Brady has been drafted in history in the Fantasy Football League. Brady is projected to go 22.89 against New Orleans, while Jameis Winston's projected to go 22.6 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a very intriguing matchup because it's a tale of two halves for Jameis. The first half against Atlanta, he looked like a quarterback from, again, Tampa Bay. And Jameis, in the second half, looked like a quarterback that he played in college, especially at Florida State. He was lights out in the second half against Atlanta. And then again, Atlanta's used to choking big leads. I don't understand, but it's just not the Patriots. They almost choke almost every lead against every team they play now. But who do I say sit and who I say start? This may stun people. I'm picking starting Jameis Winston. He's home. Back-to-back road games for the New Orleans for the Buccaneers. He's home. Jameis could do very well at home again, and I think they have a point to make. If the Saints want to be contenders in this division, they have to win this game and at least go 2-0 on the regular season and 2-0 in the division play. So I say start Jameis Winston. Let's get into the running backs. And the running backs, these are two marquee running backs in the National Football League. I don't care who you think is a marquee running back or not. These are two of the marquee running backs. One of them was a kind of a no-show in week 1. The other one is legit. He, came out and started the season this past week and showed why he is the best or one of the best running backs in the National Football League. My running backs going head-to-head this week is very key. I've seen fantasy teams with both these guys on them. How I know? I played against one last week. Luckily, one of them didn't perform. The other one did, of course, and that is, let's go back to Dallas, Ezekiel Elliott, and let's look at the Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor. Last week, Jonathan Taylor just, murked it. You expect that from Jonathan Taylor and the Indianapolis Colts. Unfortunately, they got a tie against Houston. Ezekiel Elliott should be the main focus point for the Dallas Cowboys. You're going to have a quarterback in there. Dak is not going to be playing. And Cincinnati's going to say, hey, this quarterback is going to have to beat us through the air. But one thing Dallas should have kept doing against Tampa, and they quit doing it, was run the football. Dallas was getting good yardage on the ground. And now they got to really solidify that is their game. But I love Jonathan Taylor right here against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, Jacksonville's home, and Jacksonville has won games, and one's actually a very extended streak against the Colts in Jacksonville. But I cannot – if you have Jonathan Taylor on your staff and in your squad, don't bench him. Yes, Indianapolis has had bad games in Jacksonville for the last 7 years, but the last couple of years when Jonathan Taylor has been the main guy in the backfield, he has owned Jacksonville. He averages 87.6 yards on the ground against the Jacksonville Jaguars with 2 touchdowns per game when he plays against them. That's pretty dang good. So if I was you got Ezekiel Elliott maybe being the last hope for the Dallas Cowboys until Dak Prescott returns halfway through the season, or Jonathan Taylor, a running back that basically may get Matt Ryan his chance to establish his offense against a defense that's bend or don't break. But if I was a betting man, I will start Jonathan Taylor and bench Ezekiel Elliott if you're looking at who should I start over who. Let's get to the wide receivers. Stephon Diggs, if he's on your staff and you have him as your number 1, or if you're in some drafts that are really crazy that you have multiple good receivers, you keep that boy in there. Yes, disregard what projections have said, because he's projected this week to get 17.33, and last week he was only projected to get 11. So if he reached 20 last week, he may get 25 this week. I just don't see anybody on Tennessee's defense that's going to contain him. And of course, my other wide receiver is Jamar Chase. Homeboy is elite. Now that Dallas's defense is a little suspect, now that they're going to be on the ground concentrating most of the game, they have to be the single factor for Dallas to keep in the standings in the NFC East. Look for Dallas to try to basically blitz Burrow, trying to get the Burrow as best as possible. Burrow, as you seen last week, Burrow struggled against a blitzing defense. Pittsburgh was throwing them multiple looks, and that offensive line, which a lot of people feared in Cincinnati was going to be the issue last year, has showed some signs this year of what I'm not calling myself an expert, what NFL experts have been saying was the reason, was a major red flag last season. But eventually it's coming to this season. But big game for Cincinnati here and Jamar Chase. I look at this game as who you want to have as a solidified player, Chase or Diggs. Both players go up against two defenses are going to have different approaches. If I was you, I start Diggs. And the flex player, I can't throw every player out there. So for Pittsburgh's sake, yes, against the Patriots, Claypool against a secondary in New England that got torched by Tua. When your secondary gets torched by Tua, you don't have a good secondary. Just stating facts. And also, the other player on my flex, I for some odd reason, I like DJ Chark. He played very well last week, and he was there for, of course, Detroit's not what you like to call a playoff team, but if you're looking for a guy that's going to give you 12 to 13 points, maybe DJ Chark is that type of guy. I like Claypool and Chark because of the opponents they're playing in this game, but if you only need that one guy, I will have to say Claypool because I don't trust New England's defense, and New England's defense will get scorched, just saying. So let's go to the defense side of the ball. Basically, I just murked one team multiple times, and they play in the AFC South. No, it's not the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is the Tennessee Titans. And also, there's another team out there called the New York Football Jets. Who are they both playing? They're playing Buffalo, and they're playing Cleveland. Both defenses were stout in their first games of the NFL season. Now they're back home. Browns are back home in Cleveland. Buffalo's back home against Tennessee. Both offenses, you got the question marks in the Jets with, is Wilson going to play? Is he going to be out for a couple more weeks? Is Flacco good enough? Because you can tell Baltimore ran a basic game plan against the Jets last week and took care of business, meaning took care of business. So you look at this game, who do you want to start? Do you want a defense that's guaranteed going to give you a turnover, but may give up a lot of yards on the ground in Buffalo's defense, but hold a Tennessee offense that's not like L.A.? Or do you want to look at a Joe Flacco offense that looked inept against Baltimore, going up against a defense in Cleveland who did very well in Carolina? Unfortunately, Baker Mayfield was doing Baker Mayfield things in the second half and made that game very intriguing. Cleveland, Carolina took the lead, but Cleveland finished out with the win. If I want to do a defense here, even though Buffalo may be the go-to defense, I like the Browns' defense in this one because I am not sold on the New York Jets. I'm not sold on Flacco. I don't care what people said. Yes, I know I messed up saying that I forgot that Wilson got hurt. It's my bad. Don't listen to me. But yeah, so far here are my 4 starters for your fantasy picks for myself, Jim Renier. I have Jameis Winston, Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, Claypool, geez Louise, I can't speak English today, and the Cleveland Browns. And the boom pick of the week for your boy, I have to give it to a guy that was only projected last week to get 13.6 points by ESPN and Sleeper. Only one that actually gave them a chance was DraftKings, who actually got towards what do you think a minimal receiver does at 21.4 points projected, but he annihilated that last week. So keep on the hot streak because as the words of Kelcey and the words of Zach, Cousins knows where he's at and just throws the ball up to him, and you know who I'm talking about. That is Justin Jefferson is the boom pick of the week. And that has been Jim's boom bust or start for week 2 of the National Football League. To my friends over there again, I can't speak. See, it's what happens when you move. You have too much energy moving. So again, to the guys on the 4th and 4, Zach, Kelcey, and DJ. Here's the starting lineup. Pick who is starting and who is sitting. I'm Jim Renier. Enjoy the rest of your week here in the National Football League. And yes, DJ, I did pick the Jaguars because even though Taylor's going to have a good game, Colts are still going to Colts in Jacksonville. I'm Jim Renier, ladies and gentlemen. This is 4th and 4, third quarter. Zach, DJ, and Kelcey, take it away.
He brought the big move energy at the end right at you, DJ. I can feel it there.
History will repeat itself until it is acted on by a greater or similar force. I mean, it's a combination of Newton's law and the laws of history. So, I mean, until they actually beat him in Jacksonville, just got to presume it's dead.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave. I'm just gonna leave what Jim said as that's gonna be that. Do we want to talk about his starts or streets?
Funny enough, I just based on history, for some reason, recent years, I'll take Winston over Brady in this one. I'm not, for some reason, I feel confident. I mean, for some reason, New Orleans, they can figure out the Bucks. I don't know what it is. It's one of those things. It's almost like, for example, Jaguars hosting the Colts in recent years. Something hangs over it. I don't get it, but I'm fine with the Winston pick. I'll take that.
Honestly, out of all of his picks, I like Winston. I like Jonathan Taylor. I like Diggs over Chase. I like Claypool over DJ Shark as well. But the only one I'm looking at that I'd switch is Buffalo. I'd take Buffalo over the Browns defense. I just think the Jets might have a little something special in that one.
All right, a little something special. Well, I think that's a good way to lead us here into quarter 4 and rush through our pick'ems here really quickly. And Kelcey, this is kind of where you take over as well too, and I think you got some surprises for us.
This is exactly where I take over. But first, this is quarter 4. This is our primetime pick'ems, and you know what this means is we have to look back at a tough first week for some of us. And Zach still leading the way somehow. I don't know how you manage it every week. 9-5-1. The one, obviously, we're giving the tie game with the Colts and Houston. Nobody got it right, nobody got it wrong, so we have to put it down as a tie. DJ coming in at second with 8-6-1. And then in the most ironic fashion, I come in at third, flipping DJ's record at 6-8-1. And Jim flips Zach's record at 5-9-1, pulling up the rear here. So, very interesting first week of games. My island pick did not turn out to be a positive whatsoever. The Jets looked like they were sitting on an island of trash and not an island of success. But we'll get to that later. So we're going to talk about the 3 games to highlight. We're going to start with one of the defenses that Jim mentioned, the Bills, going up against the Titans. I want to start with this one just because this is the easy watch one. We are all going Bills in this one. I don't think any of us have been dissuaded of the fact that the Bills might be the most popular team to win the Super Bowl, and they looked it in week 1, and whereas the Titans looked pretty poor. Is that kind of a safe way to sum it up for you guys' opinions?
I would say that you might be onto something. I mean, look, I have a buddy of mine, and if he ever listens to this show, if not, whatever, but if he does, I keep telling him, why do you underestimate Josh Allen? Why does anyone underestimate Josh Allen at this point? You should be understanding he is prime time at the peak right now, and he's got all the weapons to do it. Defensively, they brought in Von Miller, and you could tell he just accelerates what was already working last year. It's hard for me to not pick against them. And Tennessee, look, unless Derrick Henry comes out and he's feeling a lot more fine really fast, they're looking a little short right now. I mean, I was surprised that New York walked away with a win. I thought they could at least manage the Giants. Maybe it's a new Brian DeBall-led offense there that changed things, but nah, it's Bills all the way. Even if I had to go with the loss last week, it would have been Bills all the way this week.
Unless Derrick Henry's going to give you 250 and 3 touchdowns, Tannehill's going to run one in himself. They're going to have to put on a clinic on the ground. So, yeah, give you the Bills comfortable.
All right. I respect it. Well, that's going to take us to an earlier game in the day on Sunday. This is the Dolphins. This is the Ravens. I'm a difference maker. I put myself on some of these islands, and I feel so alone here. I'm actually kind of surprised that after the Dolphins' great performance in Week 1, that nobody else is filling the Dolphins' Kool-Aid right now. It was just, what's happening, guys? Like, nobody else likes Mike McDaniel's offense, or is it just too much Lamar and crew?
I'll keep mine really quick as well, too. It sounds like J.K. Dobbins is going to play, and I've been bullish that I think he's going to have a bounce-back year, and I think it's going to start today. I think he gives them that true number one running back that will give them a little bit of a difference in 2 relatively even teams. So it's a slight one. I don't want to bet the money line on this one. I don't trust either team as far as betting-wise goes. Both really good. I will want to say, what are the over-unders on wheelbarrows we see in the stands after Tyreek Hill's comments last week about Mike McDaniel? Well, that is my question. That's what I'm more interested in, but I love this game. I just went with my gut feelings. I'm high on the Ravens right now.
Okay.
You got to be happy with that guy with the glasses getting his first win. It was nice. It's nice to get a win against Bill Belichick Week 1. The thing is that I think Bill's team is still figuring some things out. Obviously, got that weird co-offensive coordinator thing going on with the next co-defensive coordinator. What the heck? No, I digress. You go against Lamar Jackson. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm still leaning this as a Ravens win, but we get that bet because some of you are going to be listening going, hey, you can't score 21 and say it's a loss. Miami's defense is solid. You know what? I think Lamar, he has a second target now. Duvernay, along with Mark Andrews, and if J.K. Dobbins, just like DJ's saying, he comes in, I'm bullish on him too. What, are you going to slow him down enough? I don't think so. This Ravens squad's going to get the win. And Miami's going to get you some betting wins as well. So, yeah, I got the Ravens. I think that this is the game that's the litmus test on how bullish a lot of people were on the Dolphins this preseason, and if that is going to come to light or not after this one.
Well, I'm stacking my hopes for this week's pick'em on this Dolphins pick because this one I feel is pretty good about. I feel like Mike McDaniels is a very creative offensive coach, and he has the weapons there in Miami to be able to kind of do whatever he wants. And that running game wasn't shameful by any means in week one. Obviously, it could have been better, but it was in no way, shape, or form shameful for a Mike McDaniels-led team. I mean, they were able to do a lot of things through the air on the ground that you'd like to see and give Tua a lot of easy dump-offs. That defense, though, still looks fantastic. And that defense, I think, is going to be the problem maker for Lamar because there's a lot of fast guys on that defense that if Lamar does escape or does break loose, they have an answer for him. And then, obviously, I am worried a little bit about Devin Duvernay running up the middle because it is a notorious cover 2 team. So you split the safeties and you're wide open. Lamar can hit that ball very easily, as Lamar is still a good quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. This one's tough because I love Lamar, but I do think the Dolphins have enough to win this one as well. So we'll see. Again, I'm hoping I'm the only one going there. But again, on another game that I'm the only one, seeming to go out on a limb here, the Eagles-Vikings. Guys, Vikings? All around?
Okay.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say going out on a limb now. This one's pretty even here. I mean,
if it would be even, there would be 2 versus 2 and not 3 versus 1.
I'm saying it's not like going out on a limb. You're not picking Appalachian State to pull an upset yet again. Now,
they did pull an upset today.
Exactly
again.
My point. You didn't double dip on that. I am surprised as well, too. I was surprised nobody else picked the Eagles as well, too. Maybe something the second half of that Lions game got everyone a little skittish, but
Lions are good.
Okay, see that's the thing. I'm asking you. So, do you believe that Eagles defense, is going to slow down more weapons that Minnesota has than Detroit? Because, quite frankly, that to me is what instantly flips this as I can't pick the Eagles right here. You can try and outrun a team, but there comes a point.
I got the answer to this one. I already know where this one's going. I don't trust Kirk Cousins.
Exactly. Here's the difference. The difference is there's a Yair Alexander on Green Bay that was trying to hand off Justin Jefferson to anybody else on that secondary for Green Bay, and they all said, "Nah, Vet, you got him." Even though that is not their defensive scheme, and the defensive scheme for the Eagles is, "Hey, you're my man, and I follow you until you go and take your pads off at the end of the day." That's the defensive scheme. So Darius Slay, James Bradbury, they will be stuck on both top receivers, which is Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. There's no getting away from them. So it'll be very interesting
run
to see
game,
there.
Sir. DeAndre Swift.
Have you seen Jordan Davis? I am not worried about a run game whatsoever when there's a 6'9" monolith that is Jordan Davis in the middle of that line. I don't care. Daniil Hunter is a fantastic.
Where was that monolith last week?
That monolith, hey, he was doing his job as a rookie in game 1, just trying to survive. It's game 2. It's time to now it's time to show your first round credentials.
Blasphemy.
I will say the Eagles have a very underratedly good chance of winning this game with their ability to move the ball. I think they can neutralize that pass rush.
I've been waiting for this moment since Jordan Davis got drafted. This is the time he gets to show why the credentials are in the waistline. Right today. Game today. He will shut down this run game by himself if he has to. Calling it right now.
I will say if he gets near Kirk Cousins, we are going to see a panic throw and a curl away. If he gets close to him, he's like, oh, hell no. He's going to throw that one and run the opposite way. He's like, I'm not dealing with this.
We might see a roughing the passer on that just from the sheer fact that the refs might be like, did you leave him alive or did you just turn him into a small particle? Like, what did you do here? Did you compress him into a small particle? We'll have to see.
Slow down,
but so obviously,
dude.
I'm going with the
that many hits.
Yeah, I'm going with the Eagles here. You guys are going with the Vikings. Obviously, you guys have a lot more love for Jay Jetta and the average mid that is Kirk Cousins than I do. So that's going to lead me to my Island of the Week pick. Hopefully, this one ends up a little bit better than Trash Island. Ironically, though, I'm going with the same
picking
team as last week.
The trash
Stop
matchup.
picking the
Not
Jets.
trash island.
Look, man, all the other islands I had were our highlight games of the week. Okay, this is the one. This is the one that that wasn't a highlight of the week that I still feel a good opportunity for. I don't think the Jets are worse than the Browns currently. I think their defense for the Browns, yes, it is still fantastic. There's no denying that. Why that offense is still decent, I don't understand. Jacoby Brissett is not. No. Look, Smoke Monday is a good enough corner that he has shown that he can stick with anybody, including David Njoku as the number one like weapon. Amari Cooper, again, disappearing act. I'm not worried about him as much. Like I've never really been worried about Amari Cooper in a game until he just gets until somebody talks trash to him. And I feel like every NFL team has finally learned don't talk trash to Amari Cooper because then he won't do anything. That's the best way to let him do nothing. And yeah, I just think this is the one that the Jets finally put it together. And Joe Flacco, DJ, you said his statistics against Cleveland 17-3, I believe.
17-3 in his career, but granted, most of those were with teams much better than the Jets, and the Browns were much worse. But it is still 17-3.
All it takes is them to win this game.
All I'm going to tell you is this is I give you the points for the fact this will be a completely unreasonably close game because Browns and Jets. It just this is one of those comments you're like, even if it was that lopsided, it's the names. It's just going to be close. There's no
Unless
reason
you're a
for
fan of either team, no one's actively watching this. They're just keeping track on ESPN for their bets at this point. No one's actively going out of their way to chase this one unless they're a fan of either team. We both anticipate it to be heinous, heinously ugly.
Oh yeah, this is we're talking 17-13 game here. We're talking maybe 21-17. At the best, it's going to be a 24-21 game, and Cade York is going to be a deciding factor. But that's at the best for the Browns. At the worst for the Browns, it's going to be a 17-3. And Cade York is the only points you put on the board.
Cade York gives Baker Mayfield nightmares now to this day.
Yeah,
for days onward. That is his existence in Mayfield's head.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll have to wait and see, guys. This will be a fun one. But our pick'ems will be actually posted. We'll have the full pick'ems posted for week 2 up on our social media as well. So check that out. We'll release those out right before kickoff of the first game of the day. So enjoy that. Let us know how we did, how we didn't do. Make fun of my Island of the Week. That's fine. It's acceptable. But you know what, guys? That does it for our week 2 edition. We're gonna get out of here. We're gonna get ready for some football today. I can't wait for it. For DJ, for Zach, for Jim, who's not able to make it because hopefully he eventually does end up finally getting a place to move to. We'll see if he ever moves out of the empty bedroom at this point in time. It seems like he's stuck there for now. But for all of you guys, we'll see you guys next week on 4th and 4. In the meantime, check out our socials. You know how to find us at 4th and 4, at High-Low Sports, at Zach Kyleman, at J-904, at Controlling the Chaos Podcast if you follow Jim's podcast, or at the USFL show if you follow Zach on there, or in the Walls podcast for AFL news. Also, Arena Football News with Jim and Zach. So you guys know how to follow us. Check us out there, and we will see you guys next week.